Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Does volunteering at a nonprofit horse sanctuary sound wonderful? Or are you a veteran or a veteran spouse and think trying a peer group session through a local Horses and Heroes equine program might be worth trying? Henry's Home Horse and Human Sanctuary, located in Grand Central Park by appointment only, is home to a growing number of rescued and donated horses. Visit our website at henryshomehorsesanctuary.org or check out our Facebook at Henry's Home Horse and Human Sanctuary for more information.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
That's right. We're live here on Lone Star Community Radio. It's 9:11 right now. Hanging out in the studio. We are on YouTube, Facebook, all that kind of stuff right now because I have a special guest. We got something coming up here, I believe, in the first week of October. And we welcome back actually, you'll probably hear her voice every once in a while because we have some PSAs and stuff for the Commemorative Air Force. But we have Erin Sloper and also Nancy. I'm going to butcher your last name, and I know you get this all the time. Actually, I'm not going to say it. I'll let you introduce yourself, Nancy. But we have Nancy and Erin, and they're with the World War II, the upcoming World War II B-17 Memorial dedication happening here at our Veterans Memorial Park here in Conroe. And all the information regarding this dedication coming up, I actually put a link below in the description. So if you're hearing this on the radio and you're like, hey, what day is that? What do I have to do? What does it cost? All that kind of stuff. Tell me more about it. I did put a link. It's always on the Veterans page, which is honormission.org. But we're going to talk about on October 8th, and y'all do the Army time, which is going to confuse like everybody, but it's just 1 p.m. But our 1,300 hours. But let's talk to Nancy, talk to Erin, talk about the B-17 Memorial Dedication, what it is, and why we're doing it, and then talk about the upcoming events you guys still do with the Commemorative Air Force and all that kind of stuff. So what's going on, guys?
Good morning.
Good morning, Dick. It's Nancy Kwiecien.
Kwiecien.
With the Commemorative Air Force.
I was going to be way off with that one.
I'll answer to almost anything, including a call sign Kiwi. So whatever's easier.
You don't like the call sign Kiwi?
My husband's call sign Kiwi. So
he
doesn't like it if I take his call sign.
Oh, that's true. I never really thought about that. But if people didn't know, Nancy's been around the Conroe area for a while, especially if you didn't know, over here at the airport, it houses a couple of y'all's planes, and the Commemorative Air Force is like a national organization.
That's right.
And I wouldn't say necessarily that y'all have a chapter here. It's just kind of part of the system, right?
Yeah,
is that how to say it?
So the Commemorative Air Force is it's a 501c nonprofit. And we have 19,000 members in the United States. And
what counts as a member?
Counts as a member if you sign up with the Commemorative Air Force online.
Uh-huh.
And if you come and fly one of our airplanes, we will make you a member too.
Okay.
We have a fleet of 175 vintage World War II military aircraft. And the mission of the Commemorative Air Force is to educate, inspire, and honor.
So that's commemorativeairforce.org.
That's right.
Okay.
Commemorativeairforce.org. When we say what our mission is, we talk about educating the public about U.S. military aircraft and their history and what their history means today.
Uh-huh.
We talk about inspiring the next generation of aviators, and we talk about honoring the veterans and the ground personnel who flew and supported these aircraft.
Because I've been to several of your events, and it's kind of surreal. Because you know what you guys make it feel like, and this is going to be a strange take from the public, from me. You made me feel like I knew a really rich person. Because I got all access, kind of like unless you want to pay to ride it, like if you just show up, you get to see it still.
Absolutely. We talk about enabling the public to put their hands on
Yeah,
history.
that's what I'm saying. I felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. It was like a private event, and I was like lucky enough to know somebody that had the ability to provide those planes, because you don't just have like one plane. You have like a whole garage full, and it changes every time. So I encourage folks. I'm actually going to add.
So it does feel kind of like VIP access, doesn't it?
Well, it's just you don't every day you don't see airplanes like this,
Right.
and then again you don't see airplanes like this fly, go up and down, and like that kind of stuff. So that to me, that was the special moment. I realized I was like, oh, this isn't just like me visiting the one down towards Galveston and just seeing airplanes. That's kind of cool. But it's like, no, I'm literally hearing them start the engine and
Right.
take off, because that's totally different
Yes.
from like seeing something in a
See
museum.
it, smell it, feel it. Exactly.
So I'm going to put a link for the commemorative because you guys are around the country doing
That's right.
events. So I want to make sure people know where they can check that out and
There are actually
see.
75 units of the Commemorative Air Force all around the U.S. And if you go to that website, commemorativeairforce.org, one of the first things you can see is a map of where all the units are. And we are an all-volunteer organization, and we're always looking for people to join up and help out in the mission. So
Yeah,
even
and
if you're not in Conroe, have a look.
and that's what Aaron, you're a crew chief, so you actually put your hands on these things and you fix them,
I do.
kind of thing.
Yeah, so I originally am from upstate New York.
Yeah.
And when I moved here to Texas 2 years ago, I was just surfing through Facebook for something to do. And I have a background of aviation maintenance.
What does that mean?
Just
Like you
I
built
went
your
to
own
college.
plane?
Yeah, so I went to college for aircraft mechanic.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get the license, but I still dove
Yeah.
into stuff here and there. So when I moved here, I had that knowledge. I had the love of aviation since I was probably 10 years old. And I surfed through Facebook and says, fly a B-17, ride in a warbird. I was like, oh, what is this? So I looked into it and, paid for a ride. And, of course, as 75-year-old airplanes do, this particular one broke down. I understood. Eventually, I looked into it and noticed that it was an all-volunteer organization. And me having experience as a volunteer my entire life as a Boy Scout and volunteer firefighter and this and that, here in Texas, I was looking for something to do.
And there you
Here-
go.
here we
Wow, that's
go.
kind of
And
that's too much of a coincidence.
I dove right into it. And
Yeah.
Literally, I think I joined of February of last year and just skyrocketed through the training, through the events. Became a loadmaster on the B-17.
Oh, and Nancy was like, yes. Thank goodness for Facebook,
So
right?
it
That's
was,
right.
and that's where a lot of our following is
Well, I think-
Facebook. Not only community, but
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
it's not even. You're totally right, because you're looking at a younger generation trying to be
Mm-hmm.
exposed to something that is so unique as like an airplane like this, and especially if you go. I imagine if you go to aviation school today, they don't really show you one of these engines or
No.
show you anything.
That is true.
it's exposure to a radial engine. That's what
Yeah.
we run is a 9-cylinder radial engine on all of our most of our airplanes. But they say, hey, this is in existence. But now we're going to look at
Like what
horizontally opposed
applies.
gas engines and
Yeah.
turbine engines. That's basically what it.
Well, that's why
mostly
people go
what
to
it
school
is.
is to get a job,
Right.
and that's that's what I'm saying. It's one of those unique things where you're in limbo
Mm-hmm.
with something as cool as this, but how long can it keep going?
As long as we have the parts and as long as we can make the parts.
Yeah,
if
see,
need
that's
be.
the making parts thing. I wonder who owns the patents to that stuff. It has to be expired.
I don't know if patents do expire, do they?
They certain ones. I
It
mean,
all
like
depends.
ones,
It all
yeah, but-
depends on what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can actually find new, old stock when we're looking for parts. And
yeah, the government kind of was like, "I'll just put it in a building."
Yeah. put it
well,
on
yeah,
the
and,
shelf.
and
Yeah.
so if we're fixing old engines, when there's a large network of maintenance teams who work on the old aircraft, and there is such a thing as stock that's never been unboxed, but it's been on a shelf. And this is an absolute true story. Last year, we secured a couple of boxes of magnetos, and they were in their original packaging from 1945 with a
pretty
date
amazing.
stamp on the outside. And when we opened the box, they were packed in newspapers from December 1945. Straight up. And so here we are with newspapers in our hands with firsthand accounts of the Battle of the Bulge
That's
while it was underway.
and it was
get-
as packaging.
As packaging for old parts.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
new old stock or refurbished materials there's a big market for refurbished and rebuilt materials. And at the end of the day, if we need something that's simply unobtainable, then we will fabricate. And that's what it takes to keep the old airplanes running.
Yeah, because I guess what's unique about what you guys do is everything involved is, like you said, it's volunteer, but it's also like passion driven.
Oh, yeah.
So everyone's a qualified person to do X, Y, Z,
Yes. Absolutely.
and it's because you can actually rent space on these airplanes and ride in them.
And that's how we finance all that
Yeah.
work that we just mentioned, is we sell flights on the Warbirds.
So all the information for the Commemorative Air Force, I'll put in the links for you guys right now. I'm literally copy pasting and putting it in the chat, and that way you can actually see, because you guys are Dallas. I mean, you have, I know Florida, and I've seen
Yes.
you up in the Northeast.
Yes.
It just depends on the weather.
California,
California,
Denver,
and then
East Coast, Virginia.
yeah, that stuff's so cool to me. And you guys are here too. You house some planes here,
Yes.
and so y'all usually have a annual event somewhere around here, like at Hooks or.
Yeah, there are different events in the greater Houston
Yeah.
area because there are a couple of units.
Isn't
in the
there a
greater Houston-
museum for the Commemorative
There
Air
is.
Force?
Well, here in the greater Houston area, the Houston wing is on the west side of town, right near the edge of Katy,
Okay.
at West Houston Airport. And they do have a nice little museum, and they've got 4 or 5 Warbirds that they fly regularly out there. And then up in Dallas is the Commemorative Air Force headquarters.
Okay.
And
Why
that's
Dallas?
a nice
Ugh.
big facility. And yeah, and
I'm kidding.
they do big events in that very nice brand new facility up there. The Gulf Coast wing, the unit that resides here in Conroe, has been in the greater Houston area for over 50 years.
Oh wow.
At variously housed in Galveston, in Ellington, at Hobby, at Hooks, and now in Conroe.
Moved around.
We have
I like
it. A long lifespan here.
Well, let's talk about the reason you guys came in, because there was a tragedy that happened with the Commemorative Air Force last year, and if folks did not hear about this, I don't know how you didn't, but in Dallas, 2 planes collided, and basically it was the B-17, and then the other one was a single
P-63 Cobra.
P-63 Cobra, a little fast one, right? Like, and unfortunately, it had an air collision, and everyone passed away. And this is something unique happening coming up. Is y'all are doing a dedication that has this big picture, and part of that picture is a dedication to those pilots, to those airplanes.
Yes.
And you're doing an aviation kind of, like the way you're describing it to me. I'm sounding like I'm making this up. It's more of like an aviation dedication of War II at the Veterans Memorial Park, and you're going to be unveiling this beautiful statue of the Texas Raider, right? Is it
Yes.
like actually
Yeah.
the same paint and everything?
Yes. So
Look at that.
the impetus for the new monument in the Conroe Park was a partnership with the Montgomery County Veterans Memorial Park, and they reached out to us very early after the mid-air collision last November to say that they wanted to plan a memorial for the park that would be tribute to World War II aviation and World War II aviators, and they wanted it to take the form of Texas Raiders, the B-17
Yeah.
that we lost.
Yeah.
And so we've been in planning for this for over 6 months. And the Montgomery County Veterans Memorial Park Commission took the lead in the design and fabrication of what is going to be an extraordinarily beautiful monument. It is a replica of the B-17 Flying Fortress with a 15-foot wingspan and pylons below it that will have information about U.S. Army Air Force, World War II aviation, and then about the B-17, which lived here locally. Texas Raiders was housed here in Conroe. And also a tribute to the 6 aviators who were lost last November, one of whom was a resident of Montgomery and well-known locally. The
Yeah.
pilot of the P-63 fighter who was lost was a locally prominent aviator as well.
Because I want to show a picture of it. Is that okay?
Yeah, yes,
I'm going to show
yes.
a picture to our YouTube, Facebook folks. This is on their website for honormission.org about the event, the upcoming unveiling and dedication of the B-17 memorial dedication. So that thing looks amazing, and I think what I'm not visualizing is the size. I imagine it's going to be pretty big.
The wingspan is 15 feet across.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's really big. So let's talk a little bit about October 8th at 1 p.m. I believe the 8th is a Sunday.
afternoon.
And you guys, it's a free event. Anyone can show up. It's in the park.
Yep.
Basically, if you show up at the park, if you don't know where the park is, just look it up. It's right next to the Montgomery County Library, the main one. And then I guess 2854 is the exit.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think you can use that parking. What is the Veterans Memorial parking? Is it just the library parking?
For this event, parking will be underneath the overpass.
Oh yeah, the
Interstate
bus
45,
station, the bus.
at the park and ride.
Park and ride. Okay.
And the main parking lot in
Okay.
the library will be reserved for the volunteers, the speakers, and handicap parking.
Okay.
The event is at 1:00, as you mentioned, on the 8th, and it will be the unveiling and the dedication of this monument.
Yeah.
The event is going to be spectacular. It's going to be
No, I mean,
very
when I
impactful.
saw the statue, I was like, that's a little over the top.
We have-
but I get it. Like I was like, that's a lot. That's awesome.
We
Like,
have, there'll be some local dignitaries with some important remarks about the meaning of the park and
Yeah.
what this monument is intended to do in terms of adding, interpretation and information for the park. We'll have the senior executives from the Commemorative Air Force will be here, and our CEO will be making remarks
Okay.
talking about the dual mission, the overlap of the mission between the Commemorative Air Force and the Montgomery County Veterans Memorial Park.
Yeah, the park is really turning into something a little bigger, I feel like, than they intended.
I think the park is stunning.
Well,
You've been into the park, haven't you?
But you understand what I mean? Like, I think they had this idea to do the Veterans Park, but then it's starting to grow. Like,
yeah.
this idea, because this right here to me is like kind of like one of the first signs of like, yeah, they're not just doing just a park. This isn't just trees and flowers.
This is an actual memorial.
This is an actual memorial for everything encompassing veterans and things like that. Because the aviation stuff, it's something about World War II that really distinguished that time period is the airplanes. Like, it really is, especially the men and women involved with those airplanes. Like I know, what is that poster of the lady, the Rivette?
Rosie the Riveter.
Riveter, and that's because she did the rivets, right?
Right. She went to work when the men couldn't.
Yes, and
They were
Men going to
overseas.
war.
and people don't realize like how long it takes to make these things, and how you actually don't. It's not just like putting together Legos. It's like you really have to pay attention to what you're building here. And I know Aaron is all about that because I think that's what's kind of crazy is as the years go by, you can ride in one of these planes from. Well, what's the oldest plane you have?
Oh,
That's kind of like a trick question.
no, that's a good question. The oldest one we have.
As the Gulf Coast wing, both of ours are the same age, only separated by months.
Okay.
1942. In the Commemorative Air Force, I'm not sure what the oldest airplane is we have in the CAF.
don't actually know.
That's a good question. We are World War II focused,
Yeah.
so we don't have anything from World War I, for example.
I don't. Is there a plane still around from World War I?
Yes,
I imagine.
there is.
I imagine in like
Oh, yeah.
museums, but I'm talking
Yes.
about like.
There is. So I mentioned I was from upstate New York.
Yeah.
Old Rhinebeck Aerodrome is the World War I museum.
Oh,
in
wow.
upstate New
And they
York in the
fly
Hudson
those
Valley.
things?
They put on shows. It is absolutely
That's amazing.
crazy. It's almost kind of
Well-
like our World War II Tora air show.
Okay.
They drop bombs from their biplanes that are flying at 60 miles an hour.
That's fun.
And just
That is so cool.
screaming through the air. It's really cool. And they're actually blowing stuff up
'Cause
on
what-
the ground like we do. But
Well, what I loved about what you guys had, what you guys have, and I don't know if they do that up with the World War I planes. Is like it feels like everything on that plane is original. It might not be because there's certain rules of aviation today, but it's like when you get on there, you're like, man, I can actually almost feel the idea of people on this plane in the World War II.
Well, on our airplanes now, mostly everything is, if not original spec.
Yeah.
There's only additions that we had to put in to comply with FAA standards, current
Yeah,
standards.
stupid FAA.
So
Why can't we just like? But I know, and that's what's so amazing to me because you let me tour the B-17 one time. Well, I never flew in it. I knew some people who flew in it, and they said it was pretty surreal. But like one thing that amazed me was how small it was, and then especially on the tail area where it was open at the bottom. Where that was kind of open, like that was just kind of there. So if you're XYZ in the air and you're walking down this little beam, like you're literally like, oh, I could just fall, and there's that. So I thought that was really cool because it is a practical machine. It's not meant for comfort. It's like we have to get this in the air. It has to be able to fly and has to be utilized in war.
We say, of all the aircraft, built for your liberty, not for your comfort.
Yeah, see, that's that's the exact feeling I got when I got on. I was like, this thing is, I mean, I guess I feel safe in this if I'm going for it. Like, this is going to get the job done. And then I loved the other airplane you had up there was the Admiral, the Navy Admiral plane.
Twin Beach.
Yeah, and I was like, this is totally different. It had,
That
like,
was actually built for comfort.
yeah, that's what it's so funny, like the drastic difference. And then, but that's what's really cool too. When y'all have these air shows and things, like sometimes people get lucky and more planes come.
Yes. Oh,
And it's not
absolutely.
just like y'all's. It's
Yes.
like, oh, hey, by the time he was doing maintenance over here, so we invited him.
Most
or
recently,
whatever.
here in Conroe, this past spring, we had another unit come and visit us, and they brought several airplanes, including a B-25 Mitchell bomber.
What does the B-17 do?
B-17 was also a bomber.
Because that's what that open air parts
B-7
for. Is that for the bar?
B-17,
See, I didn't
yeah.
even think about that.
B-17 4-engine, big heavy bomber. B-25 a little bit smaller,
Okay.
It's a light bomber.
light to medium bomber with only 2 engines. Both of them really critical to the air war in Europe. And the CAF has 3 or 4, if I lose count, B-25s that we operate on a real regular basis. CAF also has another B-17 in Arizona, our sister ship, called Sentimental Journey, and she flies and tours real regularly too. And all those airplanes we sell flights on, and that's how we raise money to keep.
And I
them
guess
in
we
the
should
air.
remind folks that commemorativerairforce.org. Look up your local show and book a plane.
Wait,
or
here
book
comes thank you for the entry. Here comes a plug. It is only 2.5 weeks to Wings Over Houston,
Where's that taking
the
place?
big air show at Ellington Field.
I don't know what that is. Where is that?
That's south of Houston near NASA.
Oh, okay. See, people just don't go there.
Yeah, well, Ellington has some public stuff going on right now. It's not a commercial airport.
No, I'm not talking about the airport. I just
Right.
meant more of like that's just not my routine to ever go in that area.
Well, it's a long
I've been
way
there on
from
my
Conroe.
bike.
Right.
It's a long
But-
way from Conroe, but the Wings Over Houston Air Show, which is October
That sounds awesome.
13th and 14th.
Let me get the right dates.
Thank you.
So second week in October.
Second weekend in October, they have the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds.
Yes.
You want to get up close and personal with some heavy equipment. You'll be able to get close to a B-52.
B-52 will be there. C-5 Galaxy will be there. B-17 that's actually not connected with the Commemorative
Michigan.
Air Force, but we're
Does that mean some
we're
private
closer.
guy has this thing?
It's a different
It's a
museum.
different museum.
Okay.
Yeah.
From Michigan.
But they'll be there. Man, what else? There's Tora will be there. There's so many things, and not to mention not just be there, but you can be up close, personal, touching, especially.
Well,
with the
that's what I was trying to
C5s.
say. It's like it literally
thing
does
is-
feel like I know a person that knows a person, and I got this great thing. I got to go in the back door of some building, and it's like,
Yeah.
hey, come check this out.
Yeah.
And so at wingsoverhouston.org, you can see everything about the big air show.
Okay.
That
And
way.
you guys are going to be there?
And yes, we'll be there with the Gulf Coast wing of the CAF will be there with our little airplanes. In fact, that air show, Wings Over Houston, is a product of the Commemorative Air Force. So we put that event on every year.
Because there's a lot of moving parts, and that's no pun intended with the
Huge,
plates.
huge, yeah.
So-
So before you go to the air show, you have to come in Conroe, and you have to come to the dedication on October 8th.
Yes.
The weekend before.
And it's free,
And it's free.
starts at 1 p.m. It's happening at the Montgomery County Veterans Memorial Park.
It's going to be a very impactful day, and I want
Yeah.
to tell you just a little bit about what's going to happen that day so
Yeah.
people know what they're going to see. I was mentioning that we have some notable people who are going to speak. We will have some remarks about the crew that we lost, and we will speak to the memories of the 6 that we lost a year ago. And there'll be a musical interlude here or there. All of the event takes place under the tents in the big parking lot next to the park itself. So we won't make you stand in the sun or the heat. Well, it might be hot, but we won't make you stand in the sun.
You never
anyway.
know these days. It's
And-
we're in
right.
that weird part of the season.
And once the presentations are finished, we will all come out from under the tents and we will walk down to the lakeside, to the water's edge where the actual monument resides. And the monument will be unveiled and accompanied by a flyover. So the Commemorative Air Force is launching.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm not surprised by that.
Well, there you go. This is a very traditional thing for us. When an aviator is lost, a flyover in the form of the missing man formation is traditional. And we will put aloft 2 elements of 4 airplanes each as the memorial is unveiled, immediately following the unveiling, we will have 2 groups of 4 aircraft go over. The first group pays tribute to the men. The second group pays tribute to the aircraft.
Yeah.
And as they pass over the lake, each of 1 aircraft from each element will break to the west and fly west towards the setting sun, representing then the missing man, and in our case, the missing aircraft.
Yeah.
Too. It will be very impactful. And I invite everybody who's within striking distance
That's awesome.
to come out and see it with us.
It's 1 p.m. Get there early. I put some information if you're listening on our Facebook and YouTube. And yeah, guys, Nancy, Aaron, thank you so much for coming in and talking about this.
I can't help but say one more comment, Dick.
Yeah.
You'll forgive me for interrupting, but we were thanking the Montgomery County Veterans Memorial Park Commission.
Yeah.
But we also need to thank Mr. Tony Gullo Sr. and
Okay.
Gullo Dealerships for funding the memorial. This was
It's huge.
This was
It's 15
announced,
feet wide. Or
yeah,
the
this
wing.
was announced last June that they entirely funded the memorial. And last June, the Gullo family presented the memorial park with a check for $300,000
Wow.
to fund that whole construction and installation.
It's going to be, it looks amazing on
It's
the.
beautiful, and Mr. Gullo gets to pull the cord when we unveil it.
Well, and he gets unlimited free rides.
Absolutely. He can fly in anything he wants.
I mean, that'd be awesome. Okay, yeah, so let me just, if you're just now tuning in, we are talking about the World War II B-17 Memorial Dedication happening on October 8th at 1 p.m. at the Montgomery County Veterans Memorial Park. I put information about that on the Sunday, 1 p.m. to 2:30. There's a lot of information where to go and where it is. Also, we talked about the Commemorative Air Force and about the national organization hosting and inviting people to ride World War II planes. And Commemorative Air Force isn't just World War II, is it?
Mostly World War II.
Well, mostly. Well, I mean, that's kind of because this is because it sounds silly. I'm guessing after World War II, we can't really ride in those planes yet. Like, when are we going to be able to ride in like a Harrier? You know, like.
You have to talk to the U.S. government
Well,
about
no,
that.
that's what I'm saying. Like, how old? Like, there's because World War II was a while.
Would you care to enlist?
Well, no, I'm trying to understand because there's a gap in time where World War II was a while ago.
Yeah,
So when are
I
we
mean-
going to get to the point where it's like, oh, you can fly in a jet?
It's going to be a little bit because not every one of those jets is actually a 2-seater. Like we mostly have multiple seats. But, I mean, there are Korean aircraft that you can fly. But
That's so funny.
And in fact, the Commemorative Air Force may nudge its way into the Vietnam
Yeah.
era.
So,
There are
yeah.
some.
Vietnam, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
there
Ryan
are-
a Black
coming
Hawk?
into the
No, they won't be flying any Black Hawks.
Why not?
But you might want to go look up the A-1 Sky Raider, which is a big radial engine aircraft that was used in Korea.
So it has to
And-
be radial. Is that the key word here? Like jet?
technically kind of sort of because last year we had a German fighter called the Me-262. That was the first multi-engine jet fighter
Oh, wow.
in World War II that was supposed to turn the tide of the war.
I
to the
kinda remember
Germans,
this.
but that could not keep up with our fighters that had radial and V configured engines
Yeah.
in the front of the aircraft, so it just couldn't keep up.
Okay.
So, but World War II is kind of the rocking horse, if you will.
Yeah, so
with
that's what I'm
radio
thinking. It's
versus-
like, in 100 years from now, are
Yeah.
we allowed? I'm thinking of where the Commemorative Air Force is in 100 years, and it's like, yeah, we could ride in a Harrier. That'd be cool.
F-14 was coming into fruition. Yeah,
No, so that was one of the wildest things. Wildest things is the Black Walnut is a cool little restaurant at the airport, and you can sit up. I guess it's like the 4th floor, whatever
I think
floor
it's
it's
the
on.
3rd floor, yeah.
Third, yeah. And I'm sitting there, and I think it was not during one of your events, but I was sitting there, and some dude just in a pickup truck has a trailer, and it's like this tiny helicopter,
I'm sure,
and just takes off, and just kind of like, I'm out of here.
right?
And I was like, this guy, what, did he tell anybody? Like, because it
tell
was it,
anybody?
because it didn't look official at all. It was just happening over to the left.
I promise you, he was on a radio to somebody.
Well, I hope, because it didn't look like he was on a platform or anything. He was just kind of pulls up in his truck and just takes off. And I'm like, well, I wonder how he gets it on the truck, because that would be
same way
really
he gets it
skilled.
off.
Oh, that'd be real
Definitely.
skilled though, like, you know.
Right?
Definitely.
But it's such a cool idea of like seeing what you guys do, and then and the actual experience. I encourage everyone to check it out, because you do events all over the country, and
do.
especially here in Conroe, Houston. Houston has a lot of aviation stuff going on with it. I mean, it's just Houston's been around for so long, and the airports are international airports. So,
Yeah.
and especially here in Conroe, that airport's really cool. Especially, I encourage everyone to go to Walnut Cafe and just hang out,
Right.
because you can watch everyone take off, and that's the whole
It's big
experience
fun.
in its own.
Yeah. Well, your listeners should come out and see us in Conroe on the afternoon, Sunday afternoon, the 8th.
Yeah.
And then the next weekend, they should come on down to Wings Over Houston and see some big iron in operation.
So that's so crazy to me. And guys, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's a long time no
my
see,
pleasure.
Nancy and Aaron. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Of course.
Guys, you're listening
Likewise.
to Mornings of Lone Star here on Lone Star Community Radio. We're going to get back to the music. Don't forget, you can be a guest on the show. Just contact us. Just visit irlonestar.com and sponsor and donate today. This is a nonprofit radio station, television station. We got some great stuff coming your way, so stick around. Thanks for tuning in. See you later.
Path to the Plate is a research-based education